So hello everyone. We are here today to talk about human being in existential crisis. Actually, all of us, right? I will just see if Mariana, if I can share my screen. It's disabled. Should I try again, Mariana?
Yeah, now it should be allowed.
Okay, just. Is that everything okay with the PowerPoint, Mariana? Yeah? Okay. So this is, we are getting to the end of our meetings, at least for this year. And I thought this is a very interesting topic from what we have been discussing. The human being in existential crisis, thinking, feeling, and will. So a lot of what Joanna de Angelis is telling us about this subject today, okay? And I also, since we are getting to the end of our meetings, and what we don't cover this year, we will probably cover next year in another series of meetings about Joanna de Angelis and his spiritist knowledge and psychology and spirituality. So I brought to you, and also, so we go full circle, we can go some PowerPoints from the very first meeting, okay? So then we can put everything together. So in this wonderful book, In Search of the Truth, Joanna de Angelis will say the incomparable achievements in the various areas of knowledge and contemporary thought have brought countless blessings to life in all of its expressions on Earth. Advances in sociology, for example, expanded the horizons of fraternity and human rights. Unfortunately, however, the two great perverse wars that marked the 20th century and whose painful effects today's society still experiences provided demonstration of primitivism and moral backwardness of human creatures who seem to have regressed in certain segments to the primeval period of evolution. Such is the cruelty that characterized them. One of the excruciating moments, says Joanna, was the one that marked the atomic explosion over the city of Hiroshima in Japan on August 6, 1945, becoming the frontier of the past in relation to the present future, with the emergence of the period known as post-industrial or postmodernity, according to thinkers such as Émile Durkheim, the French philosopher of education. This phase, says Joanna, which becomes increasingly disturbing in minds and behaviors, accounts for the emotional loss of high values, which has been reducing human beings to robotic condition. On the other hand, the evolution of science and technology, and on the other, isolation from the social group, the drastic changes regarding life and its meaning in the face of the lying standards chosen as ideal for well-being and happiness. The extraordinary contribution of the virtual world has facilitated communication and awareness of online events at the same time they are happening across the globe. However, the sum of nonsense and stimuli to violence, hatred, racism, crime, suicide, the changes in conduct, stun and dominate unsuspecting or less morally resistant internet users. Past time, due to the need to participate in everything, to be aware of events, stifling the freedom of thought and movement, culminates in tormenting anxiety and painful frustration, pushing its helpless victims into the abyss of depression or revolt. Joanna is talking about our times, okay? The lack of verbal and written communication, of human contact without suspicion or wonder that would provide healthy relationships, leads people towards egoistic interests without any participation in coexistence with others, as a spurious fruit of this unhealthy postmodernity with no psychological meaning. Beautiful bodies overworked by excessive bodybuilding and internally empty of aspirations and meaning give way to extravagant behaviors that elevate to misguided glory and bring down at a rapid pace those who have been dragged along by the fantasies of their followers. With understandable exceptions, we are living in a period in which society is going mad, seeking nothing due to the transience of achievements and the immediate existential void that rapidly ages and degrades its passionate followers, drunk on the liquor of the physical senses. Joanna says that the continuous changes in mood and the departure from ethical commitments which give meaning to life perfectly characterize this phase of uncertainty. So changes in mood and departure from ethical commitments. Undoubtedly, human beings are in an existential crisis. The lack of identification between the ego and the self produces a lack of discernment regarding existence and how to proceed, giving rise to the domination of the shadow in all behaviors. And here, when John is talking about identification between the ego and the self, people, of course, she's talking about a psychological point of view, but also a spiritual point of view, okay? So ego self-access, as we have seen in our previous meetings, but in a sense, not in a sense of this proximity that would be a fusion, for instance, of ego and self, okay? But a proximity, the possible in this life, and an opening of the ego towards the self, towards the communication of the self as much as possible, okay? And Joanna says, as a result, the number of unhappy people with their ill-disguised pathology increases. This individual and collective experience, however, is indispensable to the maturation and evolution of human beings who have moved away from themselves seeking outside the joy that can only be found within each one. No one can provide us with real happiness and well-being because these emotions are independent of external circumstances, although many think otherwise. We can discuss this later. The human being is destined for ascension, and the lower stage in which she enjoys is transitory, however long it lasts, giving her the opportunity to experience life, to build her individuation. The achievement of this individuation is like a birth with its intimate pains. And I just want to stop here a little bit because in the synchronicity, I was listening to someone in the YouTube talk, and I like very much this definition of ascension. It says, ascension at its core is the process of elevating your consciousness to a higher level. I think this is very interesting because Joanna says the same. So we are talking about a lot of people thinking already in spiritual way, okay, and talking about expansion of consciousness that Joanna was bringing to us, and Chico Xavier and many other mediums and people channeling mentors all over the globe, talking about these times that we are living where our consciousness is ascending, we could say, okay, is expanding, and we are in this ascension movement. So Joanna says, inevitably, the human being brings the myth of meaning. And even when incapable of identifying it, the moment comes when the anesthetizing, this is difficult for Brazilians, cloud of pleasure disappears before the sun of reality, propelling her towards internal advancement, the understanding of the message of living and growing psychologically. We know that there's a myth of meaning. Jung, we talk a lot of this in Jung's analytical psychology. And for Joanna, this means, spiritually also speaking, that we are here to learn, to evolve, to expand our consciousness, and to reach this point, this life, living this life, growing and living in a psychological more advanced way. So remember that we talked in our first meeting, we saw Jung, and who hasn't seen can go there in the links in our WhatsApp group. Fabricio has published all of it, and also in Burnmouth Society in the YouTube. And we saw in the very first meeting a dialogue between Jung and his soul in the Red Book, Jung's Red Book. And then we asked ourselves, after that beautiful dialogue between Jung and his souls, so what secrets does our soul keep? How to hear it? Which path does it show us, right? So now, after all these meetings and studying Jung's psychology and all the contributions that Joanna is bringing to us, we can understand better what we discussed in the first class. So I wanted to bring again Joanna's eyes. She's looking at us. The eyes are the windows to the soul. It's a powerful connection among all of our souls. And I want to remind you all of that beautiful interview that Divaldo gave in New York in the year 2000. where he says, just for us to, to think again with all that we have discussed and learned. So Divaldo says 12 years ago, so that was the year 2000, the spirit, Joana de Angelis, invited me to write a series of books that she aspired to be of great use to the Spiritist movement. For 50 years, she had been studying psychoanalysis, psychology, and psychiatry in the spiritual world, and wanted to bridge forth for psychology, transpersonal psychology, therefore contemporary, also called psychology, with spiritism in a language compatible with the needs of philosophical thought in our time. Most of us, says Divaldo, is not, if not all of us, have at the core of our being the predisposing factors at the core of our being, the predisposing factors to our progress, and also those factors that are responsible for our failure and our difficulties. And if we don't know these factors, we will always be repeating experiences without leaving a vicious cycle. Okay? And also in this live that I was listening to, they were talking about the collective shadow and also the individual shadow that now we know all about, or a lot about them, okay? And see how the message is coming through different channels, that people were saying that everybody possesses both dark and light aspects within them. Importantly, the shadow operates not only on, one level, okay, one level, but also as a collective entity. We are interconnected. So when the collective shadow emerges, we all must contend with it. The shadow yearns for acknowledgement. It craves attention, imagines us as a child seeking recognition. By seeing it for what it is, acknowledging it, and inviting it into our experience, we can begin to heal it. Isn't that great? Even if we don't like what we see, be willing to look, extend love and acceptance, and allowing it to heal. I think this is really nice. Of course, everybody nowadays, I hope, is learning a lot of Jung psychology and also other authors that are going deep in our psyche to help us in this self-discovery path, okay? So I just wanted to bring you, it was a synchronicity because I'm researching a lot about the collective unconscious these days, and listening to some podcasts. And I thought it was a synchronicity because when Joana talks to Divaldo, like more than 20 years ago, right? That we all have the predisposing factors to our progress, and also those factors that are responsible for our failure and our difficulties. And that if we don't know these factors, we will always be repeating experiences without leaving a vicious cycle. This is very, very important because the time is now to ascend, as we were talking about, to expand our consciousness. So when I look, and I'm here with you guys, looking to Joanna's eyes and connecting to this wonderful soul, and she is reaching for us, for our hands. So let's not waste any more time and really face our truth, inner truth, because this is the way, as Jung also says, so to the light that is within us to get stronger, working through our shadows, okay? And so the new perspective, Divaldo says, that she draws me is to create a mentality capable of not staying only in theorems, but in behavioral solutions. We have to change our behaviors. Don't we know that? At this time of our evolution, it's unthinkable to still have wars and people killing each other and killing themselves by the way and things like that, right? Withdraw the spiritist and spiritualist movements, which are imprisoned in spirit center, the spiritist movement, to equate the problems of the creature wherever the creature is, carrying the message to change the world through social, moral, economic change. We know that this is we can delay the process, but we know through all the message that have been in the last decades since if we consider Chico Xavier and Euripides Barçanufo and other mediums around the globe, and of course Allan Kardec in more than 150 years ago, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and so many others, okay? We are doing what? We are receiving information that we are ascending. And so, as Joanna says and tells Divaldo, we have to withdraw the spiritist movement, the spiritualist movements that are imprisoned within centers, different centers, churches, and all of that, to equate the problems of the creature wherever the creature is, right? And carrying the message to change the world. This change is coming, people. And we have to really understand that the change begins within ourselves, as we have been talking through all this, our meetings. So the conscious being, Joanna says, must always work on himself from the starting point of his psychological reality, accepting himself as he is, she is, and constantly improving himself, herself. This lucidity can only be attained by those who analyze themselves, what we have been doing, all these meetings this year, willing to find themselves without a mask, without deterioration. For this, one does not judge or justify oneself, according to Jonah. One does not accuse or blame oneself. One just discovers oneself. The individual, while he does not discover himself, is always stumbling through in the shadows. And she says in The Integral Human Being, 1990, the integral being is a traveler of eternity, making his progress step by step in such a way that the experiences lived in each carnal journey establish the mechanisms of evolution in reference to the next one, providing him with endless development. And she also says in Reflecting the Soul from 2011, the idea then is to recognize ourselves as immortal spirits, making the deep path within ourselves in order to conquer this inner kingdom. So I just wanted to remind you, and these are quick slides so that we can remind what and go back to the beginning and make the full circle. And in Mother Man in Search of a Soul, Jung says the rapid and worldwide growth of a psychological interest shows unmistakably that modern man has to some extent turned his attention from material things to his own subjective process. As I told you, to look in face to face, the interview with Carl Gustav Jung, that it's in all of it is in the YouTube. When asked what's the origin of evil, Jung says the origin of evil is man himself, that we know far too little about our own psyche, and we need more knowledge of ourselves. And Jung says the psychological interest of the present time shows that man expects something from psychic life, which he has not received from the outer world, something which our religions doubtless ought to contain, but no longer do contain, at least for the modern man. Our age is apparently bent on discovering what exists in the psyche outside of consciousness, the ego consciousness. The question asked in every spiritualist circle is, what happens when the medium has lost consciousness? So people who hasn't seen yet the meetings about dreams, please do it. Our age wishes to have actual experiences in psychic life. It wants to experience for itself and not make assumptions based on the experience of other ages. And then, this is brand new, I translated to you some of the sentence that Joanna in the text of the wonderful book, The Awakening of the Spirit. And we are awakening right now in our times. That's why I think all of this crisis is going on, all of this chaos. So joy, Joanna says, is the most immediate message that characterizes a healthy being. When it is instilled, the entire individual expresses itself in a flow of energy that dominates him or her. Joy, Joanna says, is the presence of God in the heart of human beings, singing without words, melodies of perenniality, even if it's still for brief periods. Joy is the prize that is achieved through self-identification. This is a concept that Joanna brings, okay, in her own words. She says self-discovery, the result of immersion in the deep being, is a priority goal for the self-identification to be achieved. It is a great effort to overcome a whole contingent of unjustifiable impositions that build in the intimate world the masks for coexistence in the social group, as well as for habitual self-satisfaction. So, Joanna is talking about joy. How can we be joyful in these times? Anyone who fails to know their own identity suffers a significant change for the worse in their growth process that makes them internally devitalized without a lucid spirit. Thus, many domestic and group dictators, fanatical and insensitive religious people, perverse rulers emerge who take revenge on others by inflicting what afflicts them. Projection of the shadow, for instance, right? And Joanna says this loss of identity will torment the being until she decides on a suitable therapy, gaining the courage to work to acquire self-identification in order to know what must be done to become joyful and happy. That we know it's not easy, but we should try, really try. So in reality, self-identification is to disidentify oneself from everything that has been assimilated by imposition, constraint, circumstances of convenience, without the real consent of the self. Remembering that the self, Jung's self for Joanna, is our immortal spirit. So Joanna says self-identification, despite the diversity of conceptualization, can be considered as the achievement of noble and liberating values that become the supreme aspiration of the being. It can also be considered as the search for pure consciousness, which is only achieved after the experience of the self becoming a primordial and central factor of consciousness. It can still be analyzed from the point of view, according to Joanna, of harmony with the higher self, or the spirit that one is, freeing it from the dungeons that limit it and going through different phases of the emancipation process, reaching this essence of being as a spiritual and permanent factor in life is the objective. I will repeat. Reaching this essence of being as a spiritual and permanent factor in life is the objective. Then I bring to you again that Jung says in Civilization in Transition that knowledge of the transcendent does not happen without a great development of human consciousness. It takes thousands of years as it requires a slow process of psychic transformation and integration of eternal truth. For Jung, the spiritual pioneers of the world speak to a temporal world from an eternal world and are healers of their time, because everything they reveal of eternal truth is salutary, even if not understood by most people. This is very, very important. I totally agree, by the way, with Jung, that the spiritual pioneers of the world speak to a temporal world here, okay, in this dimension of space and time, actually, where we are submitted to space and time, right? The ego. So the spiritual pioneers of the world speak to a temporal world from an eternal world and are healers of their time. We say the connection to the Christ consciousness, okay, to the cosmic consciousness, Joanna also calls it. So it's atemporal cosmic consciousness, right? But they can speak, the pioneers of the world, they can speak to this temporal world, they can be here from, at the same time, this eternal world, being, of course, then healers of their time, because everything that they reveal of eternal truth is salutary, even if not understood by most people. At that point, we have, after all, the collective unconscious, the transcendent dimension of the psyche, transpersonal dimension of the psyche also. So for this reason, the first step is often to develop the faith that guides towards a future intended by humanity and anticipated by religion's intuition. Faith and patience, says Jung, are necessary from the psychological point of view for the slow integration of eternal truths, because this pursuit of them gives meaning and purpose. Remember the myth of meaning and purpose to our lives. It develops our spirituality. However, we must be aware that this search is slow and requires psychological effort. on our part, and confrontation with our shadows. As Jung called, of course, we know by now, the contents that the ego reject for disturbing our image of ourselves. So to seek spiritual truths as we are seeing through the words of Joanna, Jung, to seek them elevates us. It frees the conscious mind from the instinctual burden of irrational and impulsiveness, according to Jung. However, paradoxically, it separates the conscious personality from the natural and primitive man. Hence, we become highly disciplined, organized, and rational on the one hand, but on the other remain an oppressed primitive, excluded from education and culture. This explains, according to Jung, the fact that the higher we climb the mountain of scientific and technical achievements, the more dangerous the misuse of our inventions become. So our soul seeks the sky, as we talked in our very first meeting, but we cannot forget what is still primitive in us. Let's work on what is still primitive in us. The search for the transcendent and the eternal truths must be made with a posture of humility. Let's not forget that. Otherwise, there will be an inflation of the ego, preventing us to experience the numinous, the sacred. And this experience has a healing effect in our souls, according to Jung. It opens the path to achieving peace and wisdom for the soul. So, this beautiful book, Jesus and the Gospel in the Light of Death Psychology by Joanna de Angelis. I bring to you a little bit of this book. It's in chapter 2, okay, people? So Joanna says the world examined from a theological perspective in the light of depth psychology is a training ground for the development of the spiritual resources of the being in transit to the kingdom of heaven, what we call the kingdom of heaven. And we know by now that it's also within ourselves, okay? It's not outside of ourselves in a faraway land. From an ancestral theological point of view, Joanna says, it has a secondary and disturbing meaning for the spirit which must despise and even hate it from this ancestral theological point of view. But then Joanna says, if the world were just a valley of tears or a region of infernal pain, we would face an ethical absurdity, she says, when we analyze divinity with all the attributes of perfection, throwing psychologically infantile and unequipped creatures into an experience impossible to live with dignity and elevation. It would be a difficult achievement for human beings, constituting a paradox in the area of reason and common sense, given the requirement that suffering be the only way to provide balance and joy. Let's not forget that Joanna is talking here from the point of view of Spiritist knowledge, and, for instance, as I brought to you a little bit, the Spirit's book, okay? So where they talk about this, when Allan Kardec asked them, what is God? Okay, we can talk more about that. So this would constitute the death of love, the annihilation of hope, and the destruction of charity. At no point did the man Jesus agreed with this idea or made any statement that could give validity to this absurd and cruel concept, denaturing the magnanimity of God. His is a knowledge entirely based on immortal expressions, on the future life that awaits everyone, enabling the achievement of this aspiration through self-transformation, the elevation of purposes, the election of significant and profound goals. At no time did he raise his voice to curse the world, to condemn it. Rather, he proposed respect and consideration for his structure, as he himself behaved measured and affable. But that his kingdom was not of this transitory, relative, material world is definitely a great truth. So, according to Joanna, in the view of depth psychology, or deep psychology, because I'm not quite sure, Lana, that she's talking here only about Jung psychology. I think she's talking about, you know, this joining of Jung psychology, depth psychology, and the spiritualist and spiritist knowledge. So, in the view of depth psychology, although he referred to the spheres from which he came, his kingdom was also the landscapes and regions of feeling, where the foundations of fraternity could be established and love united all individuals as brothers and sisters, a primordial achievement for the crossing through the metaphysical bridge from the terrestrial world to that which belongs to God and which awaits all of us. I will just stop here for a moment to say that in a synchronicity, I have watched some things, as I told you, some discussions and debates, and there are a lot of modern, postmodern actual thinkers that are talking that this world, and through mathematics, I don't know if you people have heard about that, mathematical calculus and things like that with computers and this and that, they are talking. They are not from Brazil, of course. They are from United States, from where I gather, but they are talking that the calculus and the analysis from computer about our world and this crisis that we live in, and also our history and the development of consciousness, that this world is like would be like a simulation, they say. The simulation theory. I think it's quite interesting, because then, of course, we would be here. It makes sense with what we have, what we know in the spiritist knowledge and all of Joanna's writing. Of course, from the point of view of the spirit, we are in a simulation, let's say. When we say in the spiritist knowledge that we are like in a school, okay, in a three-dimensional world where we come here to learn and to, you know, connect and to gather or to develop our values that we were talking previously. So I think it's kind of interesting that, and always when I read Joanna, is like another depth of meaning comes from the same sentence that I had read before. So that's quite interesting. And if we understand, I just read again, from this point of view, the simulation theory, that when she says, in the view of depth psychology or deep psychology, let's say, although Jesus referred to the spheres from which he came, his kingdom was also the landscapes and regions of feeling, where the foundations of fraternity could be established, and love, this powerful, I will be redundant, but the powerful power that creates in the universe, right? So when love united all individuals as brothers and sisters, a primordial achievement for the crossing this bridge through the metaphysical bridge from the terrestrial world to that which belongs to God and which awaits all of us, okay? To that transcendence, to that that let's say this creative universe that we call unity, that we call God, okay, that creates everything. So a little bit ending this time so that we can have a lot of time to then Joanna finishes this chapter, and he answered Pilate, my kingdom is not of this world, making it available to all those who wish to achieve it, having been born on earth to give his testimony. Okay, this is a wonderful book, and I hope we are going to be able to see together more chapters, okay? And so thinking of this bridge, I just wanted to give you some other ideas about all of that I synchronistically have heard in this past week. And also, I'm under the impact of having been in Uberaba, where Chico Xavier has worked for many, many years, and kind of full of that energy, because he gave also, testimony following Jesus' path, of course, as much as he could, because here we have limits, and but of this charity and love and fraternity. So the energy is really, really strong in Uberaba and Minas Gerais. And when we go to the places where Chico Xavier lived and received people and channeled and psychograph, it's really wonderful. And what I wanted to tell you a little bit more is that I've heard a lot about fear, Lionel, and everybody else. And I think it's quite interesting with all that we have seen about this crisis and the ways that Joanna is showing us a way out of the crisis, in a sense of expanding our consciousness. A lot of people are talking about, they are asking themselves, what's fueling all this chaos? And in some reflections I wanted to bring to you, because I thought it's quite interesting. A lot of people saying that for them, for instance, fear is fueling all this chaos that we are in, okay? And I won't go now in the details about the body and about us being sick and all the physiology of the body, okay? But there are a lot of discussion about that, about also our immunological system, okay, and how it reacts to fear and to all these images of chaos and violence and all of that. But we can talk a little bit later. But I think what I wanted to tell you very much, that I wrote it down quickly so we can discuss together. People's talking about fear, and talking about when fears takes hold of us, okay, that it has a profound impact on our actions and behaviors, because fear leaves us, and if fear is unaddressed, okay, if we face fear as Joanna is asking us to, if we face our shadows aspects, if we face the fear that we have of our shadow aspects, okay, then it's a whole other point. And we, of course, we are going to grow with that, with this process, as we have seen Joanna tells us to do. But what the people saying that I think it's very important that fear, when left unaddressed, can manifest as anger and be directed either inwardly and also outwardly. We know that we project fear. We have always to project our inner enemy, actually, right? And have to find enemies all the time. This is individually and also collectively. And people are saying that it's crucial to understand the role of fear, and I agree with this vision, in our current reality, because it provides insight into why individuals are acting the way they are. Because when we suppress our emotions, we can accumulate, like a pressure cooker. I like this image. We do a lot of black beans in Brazil. We use a lot of pressure cookers here. So eventually, everything, um, eventually, this fits of anger, the triggered by fear, will be released and will be projected, right? We know that. And we need to address this. So let me see if I just wanted to, they also talk about that we must purge all these old energies to make room for the new ones. And I think it's exactly what Joanna is asking us to do, because we know that through Spiritist knowledge, we talk about a world of regeneration where we are living all this world of pain and suffering to a new level. We don't know when it's exactly going to happen. Some people are saying that it's already happening to some of us at least. And to end this part of our conversation, another thing that I heard in all these YouTube talks, people talking about a great awakening. And I think this is great because all that we have discussed, and all of Joanna, as Anne Sinclair says, as a light teacher, is asking us is to awake for this reality that we are as immortal spirits, and all the consequences for the psyche when we really address this reality, this inner reality. And they say that a lot of people are saying that people around the globe are waking up in this sense, waking up to this reality of us as immortal being, leaving materialist concepts and to the past and going directly to spiritual concepts. And it says that we are living in unprecedented times, and when we are starting to really reflect upon all the information in a new light, not all of us, unfortunately, but each time more and more of us. And talking about will, just to remind everyone that we have the power to choose according to Spiritism and to spiritualist vision, our reality, our truth, okay? We can choose love over fear. We can choose love and positivity over negativity. That's our choice. I know it's hard and it's difficult sometimes, but from all that we are studying, also from quantum physics point of view, we know that we also vibrate, that our thoughts, our feelings vibrate in a certain frequency. And if we really put down this frequency, we are not getting the right vibration for the world of regeneration. Okay, and remember that everything is interconnected. So when Jesus said more than 2,000 years ago that my kingdom is not of this world, making, as Joanna is telling us, available to all of us who wish to get and to build the kingdom inside of us, and following his paths and the paths of such wonderful souls that have been here and giving, as Jung says, their testimony to. We must understand that we are interconnected, so we can, follow their paths and we can cross this bridge. Thank you for now, and let's go to our time. I will just stop sharing to reflect together. Okay, so it's open to reflections. Lionel, everybody else. Today I wanted you to, I think we are going to have one more meeting in December. I just have to talk to Fabrizio to see the day. Okay, we're going to put in the WhatsApp group because there are some problems. We are giving classes, and in the beginning of the year, we said that the dates could change a little bit because we have to travel to give classes and this and that. And sometimes we don't know, a year in advance. So next time we meet, we are going to be talking a lot about Joana de Angelis' lives. And I don't want to give spoilers, but then we can understand more why she's bringing all this information. So, anybody would like to comment? You can give your ideas. I'm not Joana de Angelis. I'm not going to say anything. You can say everything that you want. We are here reflecting together, okay? I'm just giving the message. Actually helping to give the information, just, the messenger, and the message is coming from. Okay, Bianca, please go ahead.
Hello, everybody. I just wanted to ask if we will continue next year with the classes.
Yes, if you all would like. I know that a lot of people are watching, cannot watch on Sundays, and they watch our meetings later on. I thought if I wanted you to reflect, and we can think together in our last meeting. There is this is the first course, okay, is an introductory. So we learn some of the Jung's concepts to be able to read Joana de Angelis and the information that is coming through Spiritist knowledge. But Gelson and Divaldo, okay, and other teachers that started. I'm the second or third wave of teachers, okay? They reflected together, and they are beautiful, because Joana is such, I think, 15 books. I don't know, Anne, you can help me. And so a lot of information and reflections. So I thought next year, but I'm not quite sure. I wanted to talk to Fabrizio and with you guys. There is a wonderful course that we could read and reflect together. Is the Relational World, is the name, okay? And also there is another one. I don't know which one you would prefer, or even if you people would like to go on. I think Fabrizio is the guy to talk to. I'm here totally, if people are interested, to go on. And is actually about this Jesus and the Gospel according to death psychology. It's a beautiful, beautiful course. But I don't know what you guys feel like. You all have Fabrizio's contact, or you can think, and next time we meet, you can say if you would like or not, because I know there's a lot of interest and people watching later on. But this time here is precious, that we can look at each other, we can reflect together. You can give your opinions, we can exchange, because it's all about, thinking together and hearing different opinions. That's why it was so important to have Professor Corbett with us. And we want to expand consciousness, we want to learn a bit more, think for ourselves also what it makes sense and what it doesn't make sense to each of us. Okay, we Joanna respects very much this, and all the beautiful souls that try to bring some knowledge, they do the same. Always respect, because each one of us, he is have his or her own path to evolve
Actually,
the conscious. Go
actually,
ahead, Bianca.
I ask you because I am really interested to go on, to look for something, that interesting everybody. And it's really interesting for all of us to go on with this psychology, learning about Joanna, and also Jung, um, because it's more important for us to expand more our consciousness, and to see the relation between them, even if we do not understand all. Yeah, and we process all the things after, but it's important for us. Maybe even things that we are already discussing, we can also give them more information and to expand information to be better and to have a better understanding.
Okay, thanks so much, Bianca. I'll tell Fabrizio, and we will work on it.
Okay. Okay.
It has been great to be with you guys, because it's not always that. As I told you, I don't like to talk with an empty, not seeing people, and I know that some people have to have the cameras closed and all that, but it's really, really important for us, this exchange of energy and thinking. And don't we all need that, right? Thinking together. And please go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add, yes, I'm really interested to continue in whichever form. I am grateful for anything. I mean, when you see here this group of people, you've got people like yourself and Professor Corbett, they're like, on a certain level of knowledge of psychology. There's woo up here. I've never studied psychology or anything. I'm very at the beginning. I have studied quite a bit of spiritism, but above all, I'm really interested in the journey of self-discovery, because that, I think, is the key. And whichever methods people might choose, I think psychology for self-discovery is quite vital. And the barriers, when you start looking at yourself and you say, okay, that's not me. I don't like that. That wouldn't be me. And then you will say, what, maybe, oh. And I think that the baggage that I bring personally, but I think a lot of us do similarly bring a big baggage in terms of religion from this life or past lives, of a religion that is very materialistic almost, in which the representations of the beyond are very materialistic kind of. Yes, sorry, I'm looking after my daughter's dog. Decided to bark at this time. So just that shift in consciousness, which I think is the same shift necessary for self-knowledge, to be able to start to look at your own shadow. I'm really interested in that, because they say that the change of the world begins with each one of us. And if each one of us is not able to look inside without any judgment or anger or all these things that come from a past perception of, like, you're not good enough, you're sinful, you'll go to hell. As much as I don't believe any of that, it is there at some level, having an action on me. So I think whatever we can do. And I do apologize, you know, like I say, my knowledge is very limited, but I do have, I think, the basics, like what Joanna is saying to us, that we need to change ourselves with love, not with fear, not with anger, but just allow that transformation to happen. And I think really this is the time. It's happening all over in all ways. Like you say, you go on YouTube, you can find access to information like similar to this in lots of different formats. So for me, I think it's really beautiful and useful to the way you bring Joanna and Jung and other things together. And lots of it is way above my intellectual ability at the moment. But they say, like, a year later, you go past it again, you go, okay, I get a little bit more, and I get a little bit more. So that's where I'm interested, is really this freeing ourselves from these constraints of all ways of thinking and opening our consciousness and to perceive the world really in a different way. Oh, sorry, I spoke too much.
No, it's great. It's very important. For instance, there are some topics that we were not able to cover. I'm just going to, I think, Roderick and also Richard want to talk. Roderick, no? You guys? Okay, I just call you. But for instance, we haven't been able to talk about psychological types. And this is really important, I think, right, Lionel? It helps a lot when we also understand ourselves in the way that we relate to others and we perceive others and ourselves. So there are a lot of interesting topics. And also, of course, always in this point of view of our, let's say, spiritual awakening that we are talking about. Richard, I think. I can read Richard, but the microphone, I think.
Hi, and here everyone.
Hi.
It's me who wants to comment. I'm Linda Alva, by the way. Richard is my husband, and I also have Jeff here because it's been very interesting that I do my gospel in the home 8 o'clock, and sometimes I sort of finish a little bit late, and we join a little bit late. But what I have been finding really interesting is that the topics that you have been bringing and the gospel we open by chance, or the books that we read, it's sort of, the meeting becomes an extension of my gospel in the home. There is such a synchrony, in what we have been studying here, and in our gospel in the home, and then the meeting that you bring every 2 weeks. And today we've been talking a lot about Jesus and exactly what he said about his kingdom not being of this world, because we were like having a reflection about the conflicts we are experiencing and in the world at the moment, and which they are not individual anymore. I think because we have access, everyone has access to internet these days. So it's like we are living everything together. We are not sort of apart anymore. And one of the things that I mentioned today, and how it's so important for us to sort of have a think about and have a look at about Jesus' behavior when he was confronted with all sorts of animosity, and the way he behaved towards it. Because we are here, I think that we see a lot of detachment from the people who we see today as being evil, and we don't realize that these are our brothers and sisters, and so I think that we instead of using the knowledge we have, and because we already know a lot, and especially us who are spiritists, we know that there is no death, that we don't die, that we carry on living. And so I think I hear a lot, is still a lot of people sort of stoning those who are committing crime, who are bringing all sorts of destruction to our world. And we are sort of forgetting the way Jesus behaved, that Jesus forgave, that Jesus sort of enveloped everyone with light so that they could sort of feel that they are also loved, that they are also children of God. They are not detached from this loving Father who creates us all. And so I was just sort of thinking about these today and how we need to get together to pray for peace and so that those who we are naming them today as names that are like that don't help, that we may call them, I always call them brothers, I all call them sisters, because that is what we are. And if we are not able to stand a hand, to give them a hand, like who is gonna give us a hand in our hour of difficulty that we all go through? And then I was also reflecting about the fact that there is no way that we can look at the law of cause and effect and we think that we are sort of exempt from that. We are all part of this world, and we know that we don't need to take revenge. We don't need to wish evil on those who are committing evil, because the law is going to catch us all up somewhere in our, on our pathway. And so I see this moment as a moment that we really need to unite together, and we need to sort of to create harmony whenever we can and wherever we are, because there are a lot of wars being fought at the moment, not just between nations, but also between people, between friends, because everyone seems to be like taking sides and detaching detaching themselves from each other. And I think we need to sort of look at that with a different perspective, to realize that we are allowed our own, our own choices and everything, but the similarities that we have as being connected as humanity, that will never change, that is going to stay the same.
Thank you. So listening to you, I just want to read a very quick sentence that also it's lots of synchronicities, right? I think we are, of course, if we are all connected, but it's a message that came through some medium in a channel that is spiritist knowledge, and it says that it's from Dr. Bezerra de Menezes. I think you all know him, or some of you may know. He's from the late 19th century. It's considered one here in Brazil, a very important person, because he was a very well-known, respected medical doctor, and also a deputy, I think. And he was a Catholic, and after he read the Spirit's book, he turns to Spiritist. So there's a lot of history there, but he's considered the doctor of the poor, okay? And Chico Xavier would psychograph messages from Dr. Bezerra. Just because you have already said, you have just said, he says things like this in this message. We have already talked about forgiveness, because it is the key that our divine instructor left for us as a portal of liberation. And may you seek to reconcile with your enemies while you are on the way. Take initiative while you can walk, talk, listen, and while the day does not give place to the night in this cosmic circuit. Jesus warned us about the importance of settling our moral and spiritual debts, emphasizing that we will not move forward until we fulfill our responsibilities. Move forward in ascension, as we were talking. And then I'm not going to read all of it to you. It's a very extensive. I sent it to Lionel, but the message is coming through that this is the time, people, that we must give testimony. We must not, connect to these low vibrations, because it makes our body ill and makes us vibrate, in a very low way, and makes us out of, even if temporarily, out of what we want to be in this vibration of understanding, love, and fraternity, that it's the vibration of the world of regeneration. So I thank very much all of you, and I think Roderick said that Anne is talking, representing all of you, that it's so important for us to get together, to know more about ourselves. And said that psychology is very important, and I'm quite sure Lionel and I agree very much on this point, to know ourselves, because if the kingdom is also within ourselves, right? Because we are connected also to this, to the creator, even if we can't understand it quite well at this point yet, okay, but we can feel it, like Ruana says, it is in the feeling also that we know. Like Jung says in Face to Face, they ask him, if do you believe in God, and he says, believe? I don't believe, I know, right? So in a sense that we have to know, we have to feel inside of ourselves. And here I'll give to Denise in one moment, just small pieces of the message. This is psychographed message. It is important that we are useful and proactive in these times. We must seek inner silence and listen to our higher consciousness, as it will guide us back to our original spiritual state, to which we should aspire from the beginning. We are repeating important lessons with a single objective, which is to take you out of the comfort zone and show you the reality of surface life. But not everyone has eyes to see and ears to hear, because their minds are wrapped in thick layers of lies and superstitions, of dogmas and children's stories. And the most serious thing in all of this is that a very high number of people still believe in Adam and Eve, still believe in a vindictive God, who punished through judgments, as Anne was saying, right? Determining hell for disobedient children in an eternal punishment and without chance of recovering. This makes people, we learn that, right, Lionel, in the research in the medical field, in psychiatry, that this is a negative coping. Okay, we have to change this God image that makes people ill and makes people afraid. And this is very beautiful. You are in the greatest Noah's Ark of all time. Can you understand my words? The Spirit is asking. Before it's too late, take back the helm of your lives and know how to choose. Everything being energy, one single wave, non-duality, right, Lionel? Choose to remain in tune with the perfect couple, God, Father, and Mother, right? The Creator. And to do this, throw away all wearing situations that leave you vulnerable. Throw away all negative feelings. Throw away everything you have experienced up to now, such as dogmas, amulets, prejudice. If the treasure map, look how beautiful. If the treasure map indicates the internal world, what are you looking for outside of yourselves? For more than 2,000 years, you have been circulating the light like moths do, and therefore you don't understand that the light is you. Look, Anne, how beautiful. The light is you, that the treasure is within you, that the divine presence, I am, is within you. It is you. It is all of us. Ask yourselves how difficult it is for you to let go of that which has no spiritual value. The role of darkness is to confuse you, to take your focus so that you keep rotating around yourselves. A lot is about to happen, as we have already said. Oops, sorry. As we have already said, where am I? Sorry, I'm reading from my mobile. About to happen, as we have already said. Darkness plots against you all the time. Keep an eye. I think he's talking about the spirits that it's in ignorance and, are afraid themselves of this ascending, don't want to go, and this and that. Ask yourself the role of darkness to confuse you. A lot is about to happen, as we have already said. Darkness plots against you all the time. Keep an eye, stay aware, and be ready, because we have already put. They have already put this plan of, stealing fear and things like that. You beloved beings in training, who are collaborating with the dissemination of these important instructions, receive our eternal gratitude. You are under training, and to learn what brings the truth, you need to release all the lies. Do not be afraid. Darkness in front of the divine, in front of the divine presence, is nothing. Trust. We cannot live for later. The only choice that we all have to make. Either we are in tune with the teachings of the greatest instructor the earth has known, Jesus, or we will have to start all over again. In other words, prisoners of ourselves. And just to end this, my hope is that you move forward and don't look back. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. Follow the indicative arrow, for our beloved Master Jesus left it to us so that we don't get lost in the path, which is one way and without return. I'm grateful to the Rescue Network volunteers. I'm grateful to my beloved children. You are following the indicative arrow, and without fear, you will arrive at the portal of liberation, trusting in our Lord Jesus Christ, who has delegated to us the honor of speaking in his name, and in his name to teach, heal, raise courage, and build a new world. We pray to him, our divine benefactor, to bless us all and give us peace. These are the wishes of the humble and paternal server of ever, Bezerra. So I don't know what to say anymore. But sorry, Denise, do you want to finish? We have 2 more minutes. Okay, in Spiritist knowledge, we always say, that we have to reason. When the messages come through, we have to read with our minds and hearts and reason. And so I'm not saying, okay, oh, this is Dr. Bezerra. I believe it is because I can feel it from what I know about him. And what they say is all the high spirits, the light spirits, they never leave you afraid. They never will lower your vibrations. They will bring hope, and they will bring you strength, and they will just, remind you about the light that you already have. So that's why I think this is really Dr. Bezerra. So I thank you so much. I will tell Fabricio that you all said here, or most of you said you would like to go on with the classes. And we can put in the WhatsApp group your preferences for next year, okay? And we will ask Lionel if next year he can be with us, because everybody said wanted very much you to stay with us. And I'll just confirm with Fabricio, okay? If we are going to be able to do the next meeting in the last one of this year in 2 weeks' time. Maybe we will have to correct a little bit. I don't know if it's going to be in 2 years, 2 weeks exactly, or 3 weeks. Okay, people. Bianca, do you want to say something?
I want you to ask you, please, can you put the message on WhatsApp to have it? That you now you read it, please.
I will put in the WhatsApp, and then you just realize that you have to read and see if it makes sense to all of you. Okay?
It makes sense all. That's
I
why
will
I,
do that.
want
I will
to-
do that now, because otherwise I'll forget.
Okay,
So thanks a lot, all of you that are here, that have opened your camera, that